Thank you for having me. I've had tremendous hosts since yesterday when I flew in, and I had a number of meetings today, and I met a lot of great people in this community. I'm thrilled to be here in Chatham. I'm a Chatham resident myself. I grew up in Chatham, Massachusetts. It's a huge town in Cape Cod. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I graduated with 33 kids in my high school. I was in the top 20 though, so I did well. Thank you for having me here. Thanks to my host from Clean Rivers, and thank you for everybody for coming. I'm really thrilled to be here tonight to talk with you about green infrastructure and what we're doing in Syracuse, because we're doing green infrastructure in Syracuse. And you wouldn't have necessarily thought that to be true 5 or 6 years ago, but the fact of the matter is we've come a long way in a very short period of time, and I'm always honored and encouraged when I have a chance to come and speak to other communities that are facing the same dilemma that we faced a number of years ago on whether or not to try green infrastructure or not. And I'll tell you tonight about how we chose the path of finding that balance between gray and green infrastructure. As Jenny mentioned, I've had a great opportunity to work in the public sector for a number of years. I served in the administration of Governor George Pataki for 5 years, 3 as his environmental policy director, and from there I went to go work for the State Revolving Fund, where I was introduced to green infrastructure in 2008 when I attended a conference in Washington, D.C., where a wonderful woman from Seattle told us about a project that she'd done called the C Street Project, which is a really fascinating demonstration project that was done in Seattle in the early 2000s. And it really showed me then that there was a new way to look at how we can manage wet weather issues in urbanized communities. And then in 2009, federal stimulus hit, and New York State had an opportunity to show some leadership when it came to green infrastructure. And we created the Green Innovation Grant Program. We received $400 million for the Clean Water State Revolving Fund through the federal stimulus program, which you'll recall President Obama and Congress enacted in February of 2009, right after he'd taken office. And New York State received roughly $430 million through that program, and we chose to set aside $35 million of that grant to do green infrastructure in New York State. And that really kicked off a movement that has now funded dozens of projects and led to, in 2009, what I'm going to talk about tonight with Onondaga County. I joined Onondaga County in 2010 after, well, we'll start with, where is Onondaga County? So Onondaga County is in central New York. You can see right here on the map. It's right in the dead center of the state, right where Route 81, which runs north to south up into Canada, goes through Onondaga County, and then east to west is the New York State Thruway. And in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, you can see Onondaga Lake. And the colored sections are a combined sewer area. So I know that these are probably terms that you may be familiar with, but I'll slow down and describe some of them just to make sure we're all on the same page. The colored areas are areas in the city where historically the city started to grow, and rather than building separate storm sewers and sanitary sewers, the sewers were built in unison, and when the rain comes in, it mixes in the sanitary sewers, and then it overflows. This shows here the 49 CSO outfalls that run through this city, and we were sued in the 1980s for violations of the Clean Water Act and for really polluting Onondaga Lake, which is also a Superfund site. It was really polluted with mercury contamination and other contaminants from chemical processes that occurred on its southwest shore, but Onondaga County was also responsible for contamination that came from poor treatment at our wastewater treatment facility. And that's why we're saving the rain. So we're saving the rain because my boss, the county executive, Joni Mahoney, who never dreamed of being a cover girl on Sewer and Water magazine. And now she is, and her parents are very proud, and we're very proud of her. Ran for office in 2007, championing a different approach, a better way forward for her community, rather than simply using conventional gray techniques to deal with wet weather issues, to deal with the CSO issues, which were part of the Onondaga Lake Cleanup Plan. The Onondaga Lake Cleanup Plan started in 1988, so we've been working on this a long time. Just as I know, I think your community has been working on your wet weather issues for a long time. So this is not a decision that was made quickly, and this better way forward really came from the county executive serving as a city councilor in the early 2000s and late 1990s, where she strongly disagreed with the county's plans to build wastewater treatment facilities. These wastewater treatment facilities are very expensive, $70 to $120 million. I'll show you what they look like on the inside. On the inside, the two circular areas are swirl concentrators, which is where they would swirl out some of the icky stuff that might be in the combined sewer overflows during wet weather events. And then the track on the left is really where they to the right, I'm sorry, is where they would dose it with chemicals and then discharge it into receiving water, which you can see right out here, which is Onondaga Creek. So this one was constructed. We have a controlled subject. We can see what our future was, and here it is along Onondaga Creek, and this is what the conveyances look like that needed to be built to go to it. Large conveyances, 12-foot diameter conveyances, had to go through neighborhoods to close off the CSOs and transport the wastewater to that treatment facility. This was very disruptive to this community. The bedrock was so hard in places that they had to use dynamite to free it up and create the space for the pathway. And the county executive, when she came into office in 2008, said, enough, I don't want to build more of these. One had been put out to bid in 2007 while she was running for office, and the contracts needed to be signed by January 4th in order to advance the $100 million construction project to go forward. I'll show you where it was a little further. She decided on her 4th day in office to not sign those construction contracts and petition the courts to find a new balanced gray and green approach to deal with our combined sewer overflow issues in the city of Syracuse. So now our challenge is to really look at the gray and the green. I think it's very important, and this is why I put this presentation together this way, and I get to give it all over the place and talk about it. The gray component is still very, very important to our success as a community. Anyone who suggests that green infrastructure is going to solve all the problems is really missing the importance of the gray components. And that really starts with smart gray investments made our green program, which I'll get into, possible. We made significant investments in our wastewater treatment facility. In our wastewater treatment facility, $173 million was invested on advanced phosphorus and ammonia removal. And that really positioned us. And at the time, we were very fortunate to benefit from things that we don't hear about anymore. And I was talking to our friend from the Congressman's office here about potential federal funding. We funded this with an earmark. And I bet you we all wish those were around sometimes. The greater good, I think we're better off because they're gone. But at the time, Onondaga County benefited from a very generous earmark to fund this improvement project. We were able to put it in place. It's working now. The lake has recovered from phosphorus and ammonia contamination much faster than models had ever predicted. And we used this investment as an opportunity, the benefits of this investment, as justification to go to the courts and petition them to do a new program where we were able to suggest a gray and green combination rather than just the wastewater treatment plants that I showed you. So we have a Fourth Amendment to our consent judgment. We're not just in a consent agreement where we sign it or our Department of Environmental Conservation. We could go into federal court and argue with our stakeholders with us that we could do this differently and we could achieve the same, if not better, objectives by investing in limited gray storage, conveyances, sewer separation, and green infrastructure technologies. So we're still investing $150 million in gray infrastructure, and I'll show you some, we'll skip the bullets and go right to the pictures. Very similar to what I think you're talking about doing here is interceptor sewer improvements. A lot of the interceptor sewers that we are owners of were old, decayed, leaking, causing the overflows. We need to replace those. This was a $22 million project that we invested in 2009. We did sewer separation projects where we went through certain city blocks and we were able to find a cost-effective approach to separating those out and making those separate sewer systems. And I show you this picture as an after. What we also do is we take the opportunity, and not every project where we have this much foresight on, but it's something that the county executive asks us to do. When we go in and we disturb a city street to do a sewer separation project, we do curb-to-curb road replacement. And that fits in with helping a city that's really in fiscal dire straits, doesn't have the resources, rather than doing a slice cut down the road and leaving just another patch mark like you generally see from a phone utility or a gas utility. We do curb-to-curb road replacements, and I think this picture just helps to illustrate the area that we did the sewer separation and how we repaired it afterwards as a matter of policy. Sorry.
Did the electrical lines already run underground, or did you perhaps consider undergrounding them?
They were already underground. Electric utilities were. The question was about electricity lines. They were already underground.
Okay, that's something which curb-to-curb might enable us to do here and save a lot of trees.
Absolutely. Yeah, there we already had underground utilities. We're doing a 4.5 million gallon storage facility. These are some 3D images. We want to build it underground, though, to reduce its profile and reduce the impact on the community. So this is in an area we're building this now where we would have built one of those sewage treatment plants that I showed you earlier, but instead we're building this underground storage system where we'll get 4.5 million gallons of the first flush of a combined sewer event through. We'll store it in here during the event, and then when there's capacity at the wastewater treatment plant, we'll convey it down to the wastewater treatment plant where it'll be treated with that advanced ammonia and phosphorus tertiary treatment. So these will store a lot of stormwater on a per event basis, and this combined with a larger facility of 6 million gallons where we're doing a $70 million investment. And I'll show you this picture. So this was an old parking lot, but this is where, right here, the third regional treatment facility was going to be built. And my boss doesn't call them that. She refuses to call them that. She calls them sewage treatment plants, and for all intents and purposes, she's absolutely right. They were sewage treatment plants. And this is the city of Syracuse's commercial corridor, where we have a Museum of Science and Technology. This is mixed-use housing. This is all retail, restaurants, a new hotel, a landmark theater. And she just really thought it was a bad idea to build a sewage treatment plant right next door to this commercial corridor that we invested all this time and resources in to build it. So instead, we're building this relatively significant 6 million gallon subsurface storage system. There'll be a pump station here, there'll be a control station here, and then we're also working to implement green measures at all of our gray infrastructure projects when we can and when it's cost effective. We want to make sure that we're using the same principles on the green side that we're using on the gray side. We're going to capture all the stormwater that hits this site once it's restored, store it down here in this place, and use stormwater to flush the system out after rain events. The first one that we built, we used potable water to do that. And we pay the city of Syracuse to flush our sewer system, and then we pay the city of Syracuse's sewer fee to flush our sewer system into our sewers. So it just shows in a few years how far we've come in thinking about using stormwater as a resource rather than simply forgetting about it, washing it into the sewer system, and using potable water to flush a sewer system. So just a little program implementation we've made. But still, significant gray infrastructure. It hasn't gone away. Green infrastructure hasn't removed the need to do these things. These are absolutely an integral part of our program, and we'll get the most amount of capture out of these assets that gets us towards our compliance deadline of 95% reduction in CSO volume by 2018. Now the fun stuff, though. So I wanted to make sure that we set the foundation with the gray program. But the green program is where we get pretty excited, where I think we're doing some really innovative and cool things. We first heard about the green infrastructure universe in Onondaga County when Nancy Stoner from the Natural Resources Defense Council came to visit my boss when she was a candidate for office, and she gave her this book, and she still has this book that she saves now. And Nancy gave it to her and said, "We really think you should try some of these things to deal with your CSO issues. We think this can work." And lo and behold, my boss took heart to this, and we are where we are. But Nancy Stoner is now the acting assistant administrator for water at EPA. She's the author of several memos that have come out, co-signed by her and her counterpart, the head of the Office of Enforcement, saying that municipalities throughout the nation should really take a look at green infrastructure solutions. They should think about integrated planning, and that EPA will work with them to build in reasonable time frames and allow them to use reasonable, cost-effective approaches to achieve compliance deadlines. And we're really hopeful that that top-down message is going to move its way down the ranks from the highest ranks of EPA and into the regional offices that really dictate what we do at the local level. Here's a nice picture of that you see from rooftops to rivers. So we put a plan together. In 2008, after my boss delayed the construction of the third regional treatment facility, she hired a firm that had not worked in Onondaga County before, that was not a part of the original strategy, CH2M Hill. It's a big international firm, one of the largest in the world. And she brought a fresh set of eyes to the system and said, "Can you help us develop a green infrastructure strategy that will work in Onondaga County?" And they put together, to start, a one-page plan, which showed that these techniques, green streets, parks and open spaces, parking lots, public facilities, voluntary measures, private green improvement fund, a stormwater ordinance, could get us to our objective of capturing and reducing 250 million gallons of CSO overflows on an annual basis if we implemented this in the time frame established in the consent judgment. So from that, we build into a much larger CSO abatement plan, green infrastructure plan. This is all available on our website, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And then we've also added to our planning effort an enhanced stormwater management model. And I think that your local utility talks a lot about the modeling that they're using, and I would suggest that modeling is absolutely integral to having a thoughtful discussion about how and where green infrastructure is most appropriate and most cost effective. The legacy model we were using was not designed for green infrastructure. It was designed for conventional sewer uses, conventional approaches to wet weather management, and this is really what the model looks like once you put all the data in and shows where the sewer lines are. We've enhanced it by adding additional data points, and now you can see that instead of, and we use the term node, but really that means data points, manholes, extensions of the system. So now rather than having 503 data points that drive our model, we've got 1,807, and we now look at our system as 456 distinct hydrologic subcatchment areas instead of simply 94. Gets us to a level of granularity where we can really start to make water quality decisions based upon how water works within the footprint of our community. We use georeferencing, USDA soil data, as well as impervious surface cover, which I'll show you here. So this shows the subcatchment areas. So these are all subcatchment areas, which water behaves in a certain manner within that subcatchment area. And then this shows impervious surface in the city of Syracuse. If you overlay them all together, you can start to prioritize where green infrastructure is more effective or less effective. And that's something that we've just gotten our arms around in the last few months. So what I'm going to show you following this is what we've done leading up to this modeling discussion. And I'll get into a little bit how we plan to adapt our program to this technology now that we have it and we can use it to our advantage. So we started with a simple idea. We went to a federal judge, as I mentioned, in 2009, and this slide was in the presentation that was given to the judge. And what we said to the judge was, what if we looked at this small slice of the city of Syracuse, where most of our municipal buildings are, owned by the county, parking areas owned by the county. What if we implemented these simple green infrastructure technologies here? Look at the effect we can have in a very small footprint within our city. We can get 10 million gallons in stormwater reduction simply by working in this small footprint. And I think that this was a very compelling argument that was made to the judge, and he really looked at this and saw the potential for green infrastructure deployment in a very small area, and that this was one of the solid pitches we made that got him to say yes. So we got to work very quickly to implement this slide, because we want to be able to go back to him and show him that we did what we said we were going to do. We said we were going to do a green roof on our convention center. In early 2011, we put a green roof on our convention center, 66,000 square feet. There's lots of flat roofs like this in communities like yours, where a green roof could be installed. Green roofs aren't necessarily the most cost-effective measure of stormwater capture, but there's ancillary benefits on heating and cooling to the facilities when you do put them in. We have a historic War Memorial Auditorium that we wouldn't want to do a green roof on necessarily. It would damage its historic character, so we did cisterns in the basement of it. And I was talking to someone earlier about water reuse. We built a system where we could store the water in the basement of the War Memorial Auditorium, and we now use it to make ice for our professional hockey team. And we claim credit of being the only community in the country that has a professional hockey team that plays on recycled rainwater, which is pretty cool. And they're fighting for their Calder Cup championship now, so we're proud of our team, the Crunch, and they gave us a nice logo on the ice to highlight the program, so we appreciate the cross-branding. And we also hope to use the water in the summertime when the hockey team's not playing for irrigation, potentially at the green roof if we need it, or on areas around the facilities. So it's very easy to hook that up and use it for purposes outside. And because we're using it for ice, and water reuse gets to be a bit of a tricky issue when you get health departments involved. You can't just put water in a bucket and reuse it for something else. We put it through a pretty advanced treatment system. We use UV disinfection as well as sand filters. It's virtually drinkable when it comes out, in case it comes in contact with any of the hockey players as they're out on the ice, so it's really clean when we put it out there. Parking lots. Lots and lots of parking lot potential in many communities, ours as well, and parking lots are often left to fend for themselves. Not a lot of resources in the municipal budgets anywhere to fix parking lots. So you see dirt lots like this just kind of hang out there, and nobody really has any plans to fix them, and people park in them and forget about them. What we were able to do in having the Save the Rain program now and having resources available to do green infrastructure, we were able to retrofit this parking lot. We put bioswales in the center, those two strips in the middle are vegetated plantings. The parking lot sloped into those swales, and you can see here, this is what we mean by the ancillary benefits of green infrastructure investments. You can see a real transformation of what was a relatively crummy aesthetic right in the middle of our government center parking lot. Now we have something we can be a little bit proud of. It welcomes people when they come in. The vegetation's there. We're getting the stormwater benefit that we need. And we've made a pretty significant improvement to our footprint as a community. So we like that picture quite a bit. Another parking lot, totally different approach. If you can't do it in the middle, do it around the edge. Mill out the edges, fill it in with lots and lots of stone that allows for the absorption of significant amounts of rainfall, and see what you get. And this is a footnote to projects like this. Embrace the change order. You can see here that we plan to spend about $500,000 on that parking lot. We had a change order for $150,000. Nobody got fired. Nobody got in trouble. When you're dealing with green infrastructure projects, you have to accept that things are going to change. There's going to be unforeseen conditions. We talk to our people about embracing the change order because green infrastructure is all about adaptive management. Unforeseen conditions present themselves, you adapt, the project gets a little bit more costly. At the end of the day, we're still going to survive as a program. This is still a good investment. We got a great end product, fully repaved, and we installed LED lights through an energy efficiency block grant. And we used stimulus monies that we received with another project partner to put electric car charging stations in along one of the, I think, the northern side of the parking lot. So there's lots of opportunities to add other bells and whistles into it while you're doing it. This is one of our simplest projects, but it's tremendous. It's a tremendous small investment that dozens of people see every day. You see the old streetscape here, very wide city boulevard, really not that well used anymore. We don't have massive amounts of traffic problems in Syracuse, which I guess is good and bad. We asked the city in 2010, take a look at this picture. We'd like to work with you to add this wonderful element to the streetscape. What do you think? The city said it looks good, let's give it a shot. And last year we were able to get it done, and I give the team a lot of credit because they really nailed it. Like when you look at the two pictures, it's like, wow, you guys really stuck to the plan here. I like it. So now this spring, I'm interested to get back to Syracuse now that it's actually been nice out for 2 days and it didn't snow. I really want to see how these plants come back after a winter, having snow and salt piled on them. But clearly we put in salt-resistant plant species here. We worked with our landscape architects to pick the right species, and I fully anticipate this to look very much like this in a few weeks if the weather stays warm. And we'll put a new picture up for 2013 that shows it survived the winter, which I'm very confident it did. $85,000 project though. I mean, you could do this all day long in cities all over the place, and you get some great stormwater benefit and a nice aesthetic improvement.
It was one block?
One block.
One block,
Correct. So we went from our plan, when we said what if we could do all of these things, to having a nice concentration of green infrastructure projects right around all of our county centers. And again, this speaks to, we didn't really use our model to decide that we were going to do these. We don't know exactly how much CSO benefit we have using the new model versus the old model. But at the end of the day, these were all very sound investments. We're very proud of the work that we've done in these spots. And it really creates a concentration of green infrastructure in a spot where lots of people come to visit us and want to see what it is we've accomplished. And it's no accident that the county executive's office is right up there. She gets to look out now and see that we're doing what she asked us to in building the green infrastructure. So keeps the boss happy. One of the things that we did in 2011, from the management perspective, to kind of break through some of the barriers that I think any community would run into when they're doing green infrastructure, because it is challenging and it is difficult. You've got cross-jurisdictional issues where people that worked in the sewer system for their whole lives are now working with people in parks, in DPWs, in county facilities, and it's not necessarily an environment they're used to, or it's not necessarily people that they've worked with before. So what the county executive did in early 2011, she challenged the whole team, and a lot of the team works in my portfolio within county government, so it's helpful, challenged the whole team to get 50 projects done in 2011. And everybody looked at her like she was crazy at first, but throughout the year, throughout the system, working with our program managers at CH2M Hill, our management staff at our sewer utility, and the other department heads that had to get involved, whether the county or the city, they really embraced the notion of getting 50 projects done and ran with it, created some excitement for it, really strove for it, and they ended up getting 62 projects done by the time 2011 was done, and another 60 projects done in 2012 because they just built up so much momentum, they couldn't even stop what they were doing. So now we've got well over 100 projects in the ground, in Syracuse right now, and it really started with the county executive throwing a challenge out to her staff saying, let's get aggressive. Let's not do 3 projects this year, let's do 50, and let's see how good we can make them. They're all over the city, we're getting lots of capture out of them, but I'll show you one of our green streets here. So this was one of the challenge projects that we did. Someone brought this to us. This wasn't designed by anybody in the county. This was actually brought to us by the folks that sued us under the Clean Water Act law, and was successful in getting us to do this work. And then they come to us now and say, hey, since we beat you, would you guys mind building this? And it's really not a bad plan. And you'll see that this is what it looked like, so there's room for improvement. They came to us with a really innovative design, and we said absolutely. So we gave this conceptual design to our design engineers. They were able to put together a package, a bid package, where we did the entire sidewalk redo. We did a green roof on the building there, which is the Erie Canal Museum. So this spot right here is where the Erie Canal used to flow. That's called Erie Boulevard now. The road rides over the old Erie Canal, which is now part of our sewer system. And this is the museum, which is there to celebrate our sewer system. So it's really our sewer museum in the city of Syracuse with a nice green roof on it now. So what you see here is just the expanse of what we did. We had deep root tree plantings, so all of those swales that you see there on the natural side of it. We're not just doing urban plantings, we're doing plantings with some deep root called Silva-cell technologies where you can get some wide root expansion. I'll show you a picture of that a little bit later. But also the pavers that you see there are all porous pavers. So we get a tremendous amount of road capture in the road bed because of the porous pavers. And then throughout the spring we just got to see great growth here, and it really just improved the aesthetic of this block, improved the aesthetic of the Erie Canal Museum, and for visitors that go to the Erie Canal Museum, they're no longer on an old, scary, uncared for city street. They're now in the middle of a great Save the Rain project with bike lanes, crosswalks, and a real sense that this community is benefiting from the investments we're making through the Save the Rain program. This is just a sign. This is a picture from the building across the way where you can see the expanse of the streetscape in an aerial photograph. Again, one city block, corner to corner. And then we also did the curb improvements down here and additional tree plantings down this way. So this was a relatively expensive project on a cost per gallon basis, but we also felt we needed some marquee projects to show our stuff off, to show the community what it was we were investing in and why. And this being so close to our city hall, we felt that this was a great spot to invest some additional dollars and show what this program was all about. So there's going to be fights too. It's interesting, we wanted to do a treatment wetland. You start to read more and more about how wetlands are important to our ecosystems, how we shouldn't have filled them all in back when we thought they were swamps. A lot of communities are investing in restoring wetlands, and we want to restore wetland. We got into a huge fight with our regulators who said, well, that's not green infrastructure. And it's because we had a pipe outflowing into it. They considered a point source issue and not a non-point source issue where you use green infrastructure. We got into a huge regulatory fight where they said, just because you want to build a wetland doesn't mean it's green infrastructure. And we feel very differently. We feel that they have to have a broader definition of what green infrastructure is. We've persevered. We want to do the signature project. It's still an engineered solution where we're taking a diversion from an interceptor sewer. We're running it through 3 constructed wetland cells that have different approaches to passive treatment of the CSO outflow to see how well it's going to do to treat the system, how much bacteria it's going to remove, how much suspended solids it may remove, how much nutrients it may remove. And we want to do that research under a permit from our regulator and go back to them and see if we can get this permanently permitted. But it looks like green infrastructure to me. This is what it will look like when it's done. It's under construction right now. These are the 3 cells, and then it'll outfall into here, and this brook runs into Onondaga Lake. Public-private partnerships are very important. We get asked a lot, are you doing anything to help the private sector? Absolutely. You probably can't be successful if you don't have a private sector partnership. And there's lots of opportunities to put green roofs on private buildings. There's lots of opportunities to work on parking lots. And somebody here stayed at this hotel, right? There it is. There it is. This is our LEED certified hotel in Syracuse, up by Syracuse University. And we help to cover the additional cost of the porous pavers that they put in there. And we do a rain barrel program. I see one of your candidates for city council is here tonight with a rain barrel program. We have a rain barrel program in the city of Syracuse, and I think many communities have been very successful with rain barrel programs. One rain barrel is not going to make a huge, heck of a lot of difference. You're not going to solve your CSO problem with a rain barrel. Probably not going to solve it with 500 rain barrels. If you get 10,000 rain barrels, you might start to see a measurable difference. And you can model that. You mathematically see what that benefit may be. And there might be areas where it makes a lot of sense to do rain barrels. But more importantly, it gives people an opportunity to be a part of the program, just like recycling. They got their recycling bins, they can have their rain barrel, it shows that they're part of the solution. And we also found there's great success in doing community events where you have kids come in and paint the rain barrels, you raffle them off. We're using them to promote social media now, or if people sign up for our Facebook, our Twitter accounts, and they hit a certain number, they get a rain barrel. So there's lots of opportunities with rain barrels to help spread the message about how we have to think differently about wet weather issues. One of our best public-private partnerships is with Syracuse University. I see you have plenty of educational institutions here to do this similar thing with. The Chancellor of Syracuse University, Nancy Canner, wanted to connect the university, which was up on a hill, down to that Armory Square area where I showed you where that storage project was. And she came up with this connective corridor concept where you run down University Avenue and then down Genesee Street into the Armory Square area, free bus service, get the kids to really benefit from that commercial area that we've developed and get them off of that hill where they kind of just congregated and stayed up there and caused all kinds of trouble. Let's get them down to the city and have them cause trouble down there. So this is our connective corridor. This is during construction. You see after, it's quite an expanse. Bike lanes, this is all porous pavers here, and this is again all for stormwater infiltration, and then the parking areas are also designed for stormwater infiltration. And we're really proud of the work that was done here, and we're proud of the fact that this was happening regardless of the Save the Rain program, but they were able to bring the Save the Rain program into their project and adopt some green infrastructure strategies, even though they were already moving ahead with this project regardless of what we needed to do with our stormwater projects or not. And I really like this picture because if I started my program with this picture and I asked you where you thought this was, somebody would probably say Seattle, somebody else would probably say Portland, somebody might even say Philadelphia. But if I just went into any room and showed this picture, I doubt very few people would say that this is Syracuse, New York. That's why we're excited about what we're doing, because this is now Syracuse, New York. We have these kinds of investments, and this was done in partnership with the City of Syracuse, Syracuse University, and Onondaga County, all working together to really put an impressive, complete green street together. These are the silver cells that I mentioned. This just shows the construction of the sidewalk bed that was put in place, and these cells are put in to help, again, the tree roots expand. This type of technology helps to ensure that you don't get a lot of compaction in the ground and the roots stifled, and then you don't get the big growth that you want. We want deep roots, and we want big tree canopy. More trees, bigger canopy, better stormwater capture, better for your overall system. So this is an investment we're making to make sure that that works out. This is a great look at the construction of a rain garden that was put in right on the street. This is what it looks like after the fact. They did a great job. A lot of compliments to the landscape architects that picked the species in here. Landscape architects are very important to the success of a green infrastructure program. You need people who know how to pick the right species for installations like this. And then we have another one just down the street during construction, and here's what it looked like when it was done. The snowplow didn't like these very much. The parts that jut out a little bit, they didn't like those at all. They've driven into them several times. So we're learning, we're growing. I'll let you know how it goes next winter after hopefully we mark them a little bit better. Plantings in parks. We did 4,000 plantings in this park. And this picture was just taken the other night when the hotel there was lit up orange for Syracuse's mighty loss to Michigan. But it just shows a lot of the aesthetic improvements we're making in partnership with the city of Syracuse. Syracuse is really buying into this on their own. They're doing things on their own now that I don't think they ever would have done had we not championed this green infrastructure effort. They're moving forward with their own project now, no help from us whatsoever, where they're going to do rainwater capture on the Carrier Dome, which seats, I think, 50,000 people. They're going to do rainwater capture off the roof there and use it, water reuse system for the restrooms in the Carrier Dome as a start to their own water reuse project. But there's 6 million gallons a year annually, I think, that flows off of that roof right into the sewer system. So anything they're doing helps to create additional capacity within the system for us. Green parks. A lot of parks in Pittsburgh, I think. Per capita, you got a really good park basis. We're making parks investments, green basketball courts. Philadelphia's done it. I think Lancaster's done it. We're excited to partner with Jim Boeheim to do some basketball courts where we can do porous pavement. I was at a conference in Philadelphia a few years ago, and some folks from New York City there were talking about how they thought about doing porous asphalt basketball courts, but you can't do it. It can't be done. It doesn't work. The balls don't bounce enough. If anybody tells you that, tell them to call us. The balls bounce just fine on porous asphalt. It works. People play basketball all the time. When it rains, they can go out and play basketball as soon as the rain stops. Dry as a bone, ready to go. And we've heard from neighbors that, for whatever reason, and I'm not sure what it is, the balls are quieter on the porous asphalt than they are on the conventional stuff, so the neighbors love it. So it was a great investment. We were able to work in this park. This park is in really one of our most depressed census tracts. Really high poverty level here, lots of public housing. We were really thrilled to partner with Syracuse University, Jim Boeheim, the City of Syracuse, to help really get this park to a state it hadn't been in probably since the 1940s. New basketball courts, new playground equipment, and we installed flexi-pave, porous, rubberized asphalt material along the walkways, so for the kids in the trip and falls, they're not hurt quite as much as if it was asphalt. This is a great project, and I had a bunch of pictures that could show this, but this one was really best. One picture says it all. Really big city park, and we built a green infrastructure perimeter around the entirety of it, as well as new basketball courts and a rain garden here. We're getting a massive amount of stormwater capture. We've done very little to affect and impact the park at all, but we were able to get a really nice aesthetic improvement around the entire perimeter, and now this is a real cornerstone of our parks program. And then this is just our last park project that I'll show you today, although we have others. This was a really impressive, again, display of landscape architecture prowess in selecting some wonderful species. Parking lot project. This used to just be a grass burn. Now we get road capture. We've diverted road runoff from a hill that runs into this swale, and we're getting hundreds of thousands of gallons of stormwater capture, and just really did a really nice aesthetic improvement to a park, Sunnycrest Park, on the northeast side of Syracuse. Education and outreach is very important. That's why my boss lets me come and do things like this. She thinks that whether it's locally or throughout the country, we have an obligation to tell people why we're doing what we're doing, how we're doing what we're doing, what's working, what's not working. You can see here some of the statistics about what we've done. Personally, I think I've been to 12 or 13 different communities outside of New York State over the past 18 months talking about the Save the Rain program. And I learned something new with every community that I get to go to. But we've made the investment in working with community partners, just like the ones that have put this event on today, to make sure that we keep them engaged. We partner with them to go out to the community and talk about what we're doing. We do a clean water fair. I understand it's nowhere near as awesome as the clean water fair that happens here every year. I'm on track. I want to get to the 2,000 level like your authority gets to here. But we started really marketing it not as a visit the wastewater treatment plant day, but I think similar to what you do here. It's a clean water fair. It's about the science. It's about the environmental protection of what public utilities do. It's not about just going to a wastewater treatment plant and seeing how we treat wastewater. There's a much bigger story to be told. And this is an advertisement used for our last one. We had about 400 people show up, so we're building some momentum on that. We're really proud of our website. If you haven't been already, I encourage you all to visit our website, savetherain.us. Steal these projects is our mantra. Every single project that we've done, every one I've showed you tonight, every one of the 112 plus projects that are in the ground has a distinct web page. The technical specifications are there if you want to look at them, as well as fact sheets for every single project. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Sign up for all those. You get updates, and if you're like number 500, maybe we'll send you a ring barrel. Stay tuned. We're working on it. This is just a site of our website, so check out our website. We've got our green button there. We're trying to really lay it out in a very efficient manner where if you're looking for a specific project, you can find it really quickly. Hey, I want to go see that green roof project that they did. Click on the green button. You can go right to it. You can see all the news stories that have come up about it. You can see the technical drawings. You can see the fact sheet. This is a parking lot we did with porous asphalt. This shows the capture targets that we have. It's 100% porous asphalt, plus the yellow area that you see is where we took stormwater off the street and run it into the parking lot. And then if you go to the website, this is where you can find the technical drawings and really see the details of what's going on in the subsystem of that parking lot. How do we design the capture elements? What were the stone bases that we used? Is it number 3 stone? Is it number 10 stone? All sorts of tricky stuff that you might want to find out or not. It's up to you. The fact sheets are there to talk about construction costs. So that parking lot was $397,000. And what did we capture there? 1.28 million gallons per year. So there you have it. Great investment. Lots of stormwater capture. Maintenance. We're not worried about maintenance at all. I'm kidding. No, maintenance is a huge challenge. It's even more so now because we have more than 100 projects in the ground. We have a real responsibility, particularly this year. This is the first year that a lot of those projects are off warranty. We have to get out there early in the season, most likely right now with utility workforce, county facilities workforce, county DOT workforce, city parks employees, get out to all the sites that we have and really make sure that they're picked up, they're given the once-over for spring treatment, and we revisit them on a regular basis to make sure that they continue to perform. We put together a maintenance manual, every single project that we have, maintenance manual, checklists, the right approaches to maintaining a parking lot versus a bioswale versus a rain garden. It's all in there. That's available on our website. And really what we're trying to do is make sure we can maintain the level of service over time for the investment that we've made in these technologies. Whether this is a rain garden at Upstate University Hospital, with the line up here, with the level of service, so we can anticipate that over time, its ability to capture stormwater will decline as it fills up with sediment and other materials. So at some point, in year 17, 6 years after the construction, we need to go back in and make sure we clean out that sediment, restore it to a high level of service, and put it back out there where it's working at a high efficiency again. And we're going to do that by plugging all of this into our asset management system. We have an asset management system in the county that we invested in years ago, and we're going to treat our green infrastructure assets the same way that we treat our gray infrastructure assets. Pump maintenance isn't really that different than rain garden maintenance when you're putting it into a system that tells you when to go and do preventative maintenance. Set out work orders and track that work. So there's a chart. I put this in here to remind me to mention that what we really want to get to, this is an aspirational goal that we haven't accomplished yet, we really want to get to is using a kind of tablet technology, web-based platforms to communicate to program partners that we hope to hire this year, non-governmental organizations that hire people within the community to do the green infrastructure maintenance for the projects that we put in the ground. Bringing them in through job training programs, paying them more than minimum wage to go out and take care of our green infrastructure, but linking them all in through the right technology so we're not creating some huge bureaucracy with documents in triplicate and carbon copies, which, believe it or not, Onondaga County still uses a lot of. I don't know why, but we do. Rather, using the technology that's available to us to link in through hardware and software to our program partners, so when they go out and clean up that rain garden that I showed you, and they go out to the facility and they get their work order that says, Sunnycrest Rain Garden needs to be done this week. The crew goes out, they take a picture of it with their tablet, they document the staff that was there, the hours that were spent cleaning it up, they click the picture of it when it's done, it's date stamped, it's geocoded, and it's sent right into the system so we know that the maintenance occurred on the schedule that was supposed to occur. That's our aspirational goal that we want to do. We're working on it. We need your support and help. We need people to believe that maintenance isn't a barrier to entry, that solutions like this can be effective and make green infrastructure really possible, as well as bringing the community that it's in into the maintenance equation. And I say it all the time. It's not that I have anything against guys named Steve, but we don't want to hire Steve's landscaping service to go in and maintain our green infrastructure, particularly in communities that don't want Steve's landscaping service there. We want the community where the green infrastructure is to maintain the green infrastructure and hopefully create the jobs for them that they're looking for to go ahead and do it. And this is just an example of, we've already started with the Onondaga Earth Corps as part of the pilot program. It's about $20,000 a year that we invest with them, where they go out in teams and do some of our maintenance already. But we want to expand that to a much larger footprint. So we've come a long way since 2009 when we went to the federal courts. And won in 2010 when we really started to deploy green infrastructure in earnest. We had our first project built in the summer of 2010. It was a great honor to have the Deputy Administrator from EPA come to Syracuse in April in 2011 and designate Onondaga County as the Region 2 Green Infrastructure Partner. And it's not lost on us that the Deputy Administrator from EPA came to our community and said, what you're doing here is important, and we support it. And when people in EPA that are below him, and that's just about everybody else at EPA, suggest that we're not doing the right thing, we remind them that Bob came to see us and that he said we were doing good things. And I would encourage anybody that's adopting this strategy to use that to your advantage. When Nancy Stoner and Bob Perciasepi say that what you're doing is what EPA wants, that should build you a little bit of credibility with your regulators when it comes to looking for a little bit of leniency on this deadline or that deadline, or an extension of this, or a little bit of a more open dialogue about what we're doing with our floatables control plan. So it was really great to have Bob come, and then we were also honored to be in Rooftops to Rivers too, and this is kind of the full circle of where we started. 2007, my boss reads Rooftops to Rivers and says, I'd like to try this. And then in 2011, Syracuse was included as one of the model communities in Rooftop to Rivers 2. Although it's notable that Pittsburgh's in here as well for your stormwater ordinance. So the one star that we don't have is a star that you do have. So this is where I can learn from you all on how you got your stormwater ordinance adopted and what it says, because that's still an area where we have some work to do in the city of Syracuse. I know that one of the big challenges you have here that we're not facing, my entire CSO program that I'm working on is in one municipal jurisdiction, the city of Syracuse. And I definitely see that as a significant advantage on my side of the equation, and I think the 83 jurisdictions that you're working in, that you're struggling in, and there's 400 elected officials, multiple jurisdictions, that's a real significant challenge. We are looking to put green infrastructure out in suburban communities. We've invested $3 million through a pilot program where we're outside of our CSO compliance program, but we are working with our legislature to show that green infrastructure solutions can work in separate sewer areas, in MS4 areas, municipal separate storm sewer areas, and we believe that they can provide benefits on inflow and infiltration into the sanitary sewer, and ultimately green infrastructure in the MS4 areas will provide benefit in complying with stormwater rules, which we absolutely anticipate will get ratcheted up in the next 3 to 5 years. So we've invested in, I think, 14 projects in 12 towns, 6 towns and 6 villages. This is just a list of where we've invested in them, and there's really been some enthusiasm on the part of the local officials in those communities to get engaged to do some green infrastructure deployments in their community. So the results have been really remarkable, and this goes back to the entire gray and green solution. Onondaga Lake, as I mentioned, at one time one of the most polluted lakes in the nation, a real embarrassment for our community, something that we should absolutely never take any pride in, and we're rightfully ashamed of. Now we have a clean, vibrant lake. We're achieving water quality standards. At one time, when the ammonia was really high and hypoxia had set in and there was no oxygen in the lake supported maybe 6 species of fish if we were lucky. Now we're well over 70. This last year we caught this guy. What cow, I'm not sure. How do you tell with a tiger muskie? But whatever it is, it's a giant fish. And this is just a symbol of a healthy ecosystem, because my guess is they need a lot to eat when they're that big. And we throw him back, so this is all part of the research that our department does to track species in the lake. Phosphorus levels, you can see 120 micrograms per liter at its height, and we're now down to 17 as of 2008. We've continued to track that way for pretty well the last 5 years. 20 micrograms per liter is our target in our consent judgment. 100 micrograms per liter is our target in the effluent from our wastewater treatment facility. One thing we were very nervous about, and this is where that long regulatory arm never really goes away, was we were under the threat in our consent judgment of potentially having to ratchet down our effluent discharge to 20 micrograms per liter. It would have cost us $700 to $1 billion, $700 million to $1 billion to do additional phosphorus removal at our treatment facility. And that's one of the big challenges that I think any utility has, is that we're starting to get down to the fine points of pollution prevention. The first 90% might have cost $1 billion. The next 5% might cost another $1 billion. And the next 1% after that will cost $5 billion. And that's where it's getting real expensive to deal with all of these increased regulations. And I know that that's what we're struggling with here, is keeping up with what the rules used to be in addition to what the new rules are coming out all the time. So we were fortunate that we were able to dodge the $700 million reverse osmosis bullet, but it stays there with us through a total maximum daily load rule that we're now under for the Onondaga Lake watershed. If Onondaga Lake does not maintain its 20 micrograms per liter target, our regulator can come back in at any time and enforce and require us to do enhanced upgrades of our water treatment facility. While we'll continue to make these green infrastructure investments, we plan to go well beyond the benchmarks that are required in consent judgment, so we think it's better to make these investments out in the community and the green infrastructure and give ourselves a little bit of an insurance policy that the lake will continue to meet the standards that are there. So we're having a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to go out into the community and fix a playground. You know, it's a lot of fun to build sewers if you're a sewer guy. It's a lot of fun to fix wastewater treatment plants if you're a wastewater treatment plant person. But it's also a lot of fun to build basketball courts and green streets and green roofs and water reuse systems. So it's been a really exciting opportunity for everybody in Onondaga County to get involved, and we're seeing tremendous cooperation between departments and municipalities that never cooperated before, never really spoke to each other before, never thought of each other before. And now they're working together on a day-to-day basis to build a lot of the infrastructure that I showed you. We've also started a cycling team, so that's just more of the fun that you can have when you do these exciting things. And this is me and my kids. You can see our Nest and the Save the Rangers there. We went out and did a 109-mile bike ride this past year as a team, and we raised $15,000 for the MS Society. And it's all just part of building some momentum in our community for a program that's really doing a lot of great work. The gray and the green is there, and it's an honor to be here today to talk to you about what we're doing, and I'm happy to take any questions. Yes?
You mentioned some of the ancillary benefits such as the job training potential for putting in some of these swales and gardens and so on. But I'm wondering if anybody in the educational community, in the public school system, has measured the difference in educational achievement of the children who were in those low-income housing projects, because there is research to show from a Chicago housing project in the 1990s, I believe it is, there were several, and I can't remember the university, graduate students who came into some of the most densely concreted housing projects in Chicago and measured the truancy rates and some of the educational achievement rates of children who lived in totally concreted communities in the housing projects versus those children who lived in housing projects that had some trees and greenery around them. And there were statistically significant differences between the two groups of children. And I'm wondering if anybody in Syracuse, in the educational community, is looking at that.
We haven't, but I think it's certainly a worthwhile endeavor to pursue. And we are establishing stronger partnerships with the school, the SUNY School of Environmental Science and Forestry, which sits right next to Syracuse University. We want to work with them on doing some monitoring of some of the projects that we put in the ground, but we could certainly pursue that as well, because I think you're absolutely right. There's some there, particularly when you've gone into an environment where there's been no public investment for 30 years except for public housing. To now see these investments in public utility improvements, playground improvements, that would be an interesting study to take forth, and I'll bring that back to the team and see if we are in the schools. Part of our education and outreach program is, one of our program objectives is to teach every third grader in the city of Syracuse about green infrastructure and about the Save the Rain program. So far today we've done 900 students, and we hope to, we're doing it in, I think, 60% of the schools in the city. By the end of this year, we hope it's 100% of the schools within the city. But we think, again, third grade is that point where you can get them and show them about what stormwater is, what is green infrastructure, how does it affect the ecosystem of this outfall, and then hopefully they'll bring that sense of the program with them throughout their academic career. But that's certainly a different angle to look at.
Could you comment on the effect of the freeze-thaw cycle on porous pavement? What's your experience with that?
Totally awesome. The question was freeze-thaw period in the porous pavement. A lot of research out of the University of New Hampshire. Porous, I think it's a Porous Asphalt Center, is that what it is? Or Porous Pavement Center. We partnered with them on a lot of things. We've learned a lot from them. But now they're using some of our facilities for research. But freeze-thaw has shown to be extremely effective, particularly in that large lot that I showed you, where it was all porous pavement. Salt usage is way down in that facility. And what you see is rather than the thaw hitting and then a barrier of ice forming at the base of the snow melt, it just flows through. The ice melts much faster. Our porous asphalt parking lots are free of snow much faster than our conventional parking lots. And the salt so far has not done tremendous damage to the porous asphalt. Poured concrete's a little bit more sensitive. We're learning more about it as time goes on. But there's a lot of great materials out there and mixes that work very well in cold weather climates for parking and road surfaces. Yes?
What was the argument you made to the judge to be allowed to have this completely different program?
The argument was we would achieve the exact same environmental benefit, if not better. It would be more cost effective and potentially better from an environmental perspective to have storage where the water flowed through the tertiary treatment at the wastewater treatment facility and the green infrastructure absorbed more of the rainfall than simply discharging from the wastewater treatment facilities into the tributaries.
It seemed to me that it cost an awful lot of money, I mean, in comparison to what we're looking at here in Pittsburgh.
I'm sorry, it would cost an awful lot of money?
That what you did cost a lot of money.
What we're doing now?
This whole project.
Yeah, it's comparable to what we would have spent
I see.
otherwise. So what I would argue is depending upon how conservatively you want to approach green infrastructure, you could absolutely argue that green infrastructure would be more cost effective than a 100% gray solution. What you need to do academically, though, is find that solution, which is if we do this much green infrastructure and it's this effective, how much less gray could we potentially do in that respective sewer shed? So it gets very technical when you're starting to make the arguments. We used our old model to make those arguments. Perhaps it wasn't as scientific as it should have been. But I think the argument ultimately could be, even if it costs the exact same amount of money, are we not better off if we invest several $100 million in green infrastructure that otherwise would have gone into gray infrastructure, yet we get the same outcome?
You approached Region 2 of EPA?
I'm sorry?
You approached Region 2 of EPA?
Region 2 EPA went to court with us and supported our appeal. The state DEC went to court with us, supported our appeal. The Attorney General went with us and supported our appeal, as well as the original plaintiff in the lawsuit.
Okay.
So we had sign-off from all the parties.
Okay.
Atlantic States Legal Foundation was the original plaintiff against us.
Because who are they?
They're an outfit out of Syracuse that files citizen suits for Clean Water Act violations, and they got us violating the Clean Water Act. It wasn't a hard case to win in 1988.
But when you went in with the appeal, who was the opponent?
The opponent was the judge.
So it was convincing a judge and everybody was happy, so
The judge
you
needed
should
to
get
be
out of your hair.
the judge needed to be convinced that all of the parties of the original consent judgment agreed to this new approach, and he needed to be convinced that this new approach would be as effective. And one stipulation that he added was it needs to be done in his lifetime. And I think he's in his 80s. I think he's in his 80s, so we're really pressing here. But 2018, I think he's going to be okay. Federal judges, they serve for life, so we're hoping he's staying healthy. He's going to be around for a while. Yes?
Was the problem that when she didn't sign on the January 4th, was the argument that there was an oral agreement and she was simply not putting her signature on the agreement that was already made? Was that the problem? That she didn't finalize an agreement that was already made and that's why she had to convince the judge to allow her not to sign that? Was that the problem?
No, what she did is she was able to work with the contractor and say, we're not going to award this contract. We know you were the low bidder on it. We're not going to award it. which from a procurement perspective, we would have succeeded in, because you're not obligated to award a bid when you do it, necessarily. She then went to the courts and got an extension of the settlement. The original second stipulation, which was enacted in the 1990s, required Syracuse to be done with our long-term control planning by 2012, the end of 2012. So what she said in 2008 was, give me a year. I think similar to what's happening now is give us some time to look at all our alternatives, and we'll come back to you and we'll either agree to stick with Plan A or we'll propose Plan B. So the judge authorized the delay and signed the third stipulation, we call it. So the third stipulation of the consent judgment was an extension of implementation for 12 months to come back with Plan A or Plan B. And then in 2009, we were given the fourth stipulation, which is the new program that I talked about tonight. Yes?
But the maintenance costs being ongoing, much significantly greater than that of gray infrastructure. There was some maintenance of gray infrastructure, but you said you went to NGOs. So that's that money is or is not being counted as part of the total cost of gray versus green.
It's not part of the capital cost, but it's certainly part of the life cycle cost. So if you're having a life cycle cost discussion, you need to bring that into the equation. The sewage treatment plants are going to be able to have life cycle costs as well.
Right, but significantly lower.
I wouldn't argue they were significantly lower at all. Employees are very expensive now. Our overhead rate in Onondaga County, and I'm not sure what you're dealing with here, but for every $100 we pay a public employee in Onondaga County, their fringe, pension, and health care costs $67. So if we need 5 people to staff the regional treatment facility during wet weather events, and we've got 4 of them, there's 20 people doing that on a regular basis, and those swirl concentrators are pretty highly energy intensive. We've got electricity bills, we've got staff time, we've got to do monitoring with those, so it's research time and all of that. So I think we can make a very comparable argument that the O&M costs are not really that disparate. Yes, all the way in the back.
So, related to funding, was this just tax dollars, or was there additional, subsidies, fees?
Sure.
How did you pay for
The
it?
foundation of the program that I talked about, the wastewater treatment plant improvements and some of the original conveyance work that we did was funded with resources that we got through earmarks, as well as through an environmental bond act that was done in New York State. So the first several $100 million, I would argue, was funded through grants and other obligations from those two parties, which we'll never see again, unfortunately. So now the remainder of the program is funded through local ratepayers in the sanitary district that we have in Onondaga County. And that's, again, where we have a lot to learn from other communities, because we have a very rudimentary way to charge for sewer services in Onondaga County. We just charge a flat rate, everybody pays the same, it comes in your tax bill, and we collect the money and we pay for stuff. It's not really the best, most efficient way to charge for these services, and we're learning a lot from other communities that are looking at stormwater fees, use-based fees. They may have a base fee for capital improvement plans and then a use fee on top of it. We really need to be doing a better job in how we charge for the services that we have. Sorry, this gentleman in the back was waiting.
I'm doing some work in environmental community around here that is facing a lot of stormwater issues. And what advice do you have for other communities that's trying to implement green infrastructure in the community? What resources would you suggest? I'm all very new to all this, but I was just wondering what advice would you have for them, avenues to reach out to? It seemed like you had, like, the Syracuse University, you had, the county.
Well, I think you've got a lot of great community. I would look to the sponsors of this and then their partners and talk to them about potential foundation support for a demonstration project. Work with EPA. They're doing demonstration projects all the time. Technical assistance grants. I think there's a technical assistance grant for green infrastructure that Pittsburgh's benefiting from. So there's a big push from certain parts of EPA, certain parts of your DEP, I presume, that are really pushing green infrastructure solutions. And as long as you're not trying to fund a major capital program, you might be very successful in getting $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 to do a demonstration project, particularly if it's in a low-income neighborhood, because that's exactly where a lot of our regulators and policymakers want to see these kinds of practices take hold. Yes.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the relationship between the city of Syracuse and the outlying suburban areas in regards to this sort of green infrastructure, because that's one of the challenges we have here is that the Alkison Service District, Pittsburgh is by far the largest municipality, but there's all those other municipalities as well. And it
Yeah.
sounds, you talked a lot about the city of Syracuse. I'm just wondering what your experience has been.
It's obvious that the challenges here are far broader and deeper than what we struggle with in Onondaga County. 83 jurisdictions is just, it's a whole lot, particularly when you're dealing with SSO issues, sanitary sewer overflows, which are absolutely illegal under the Clean Water Act, and CSO issues, which can be authorized under the Clean Water Act if they're part of a wet weather control plan. So you've got disparate regulatory issues. If you have too many SSOs, utility managers could be arrested. What we've had is not a lot of regulatory pressure on our suburban areas. All the regulatory pressure was focused on our CSO issues, so that's where we focused our energies. But this gets back to seeking some kind of leniency from our regulators, which is, we're doing the best we can. We're investing the maximum amount of resources we can afford, which I think is a similar argument that's being made locally here, is we'll do what we can afford, and then we'll figure out when we can do the rest later. So our suburban communities face very similar challenges with old collection systems that they've invested $0 in over the last 20 or 30 years. Unless something breaks, they kind of just hope it stays put and doesn't break. But the suburban communities are all just kind of sitting out there in happy, blissful ignorance because they're not under orders. And I think your 83 communities are all under their own orders. Our suburban communities are not. So there's starting to become a little bit of a pressure, though, as we start to ratchet up our sewer rates to pay for all these capital projects I talked about. Everybody's going to start saying, what the heck is this all about? And it's really the echo effect of these investments is coming a year or two after we make them. We're going to start to really see the pressure from the suburban communities when the rates go up